All right, we're reviewing today for your test on Friday, so let's get going. So first, you just have some basic vocabulary that you have to know. And so we're going to do that first. So what does a point look like? Yeah, it's literally just a dot. Okay, and how do you name a point? One letter names a point. Okay, so you could say point A, if that was what was next to your dot, your point. All right, and what does a line look like? But describe it. Yes, good. It has an arrow on each end telling us that it goes on forever in both directions. And how do you name a line? 2 letters. Good. 2 points on the line, or 2 letters. So you could call it line AB. And a line segment is what?
2 dots on each end.
Yes. Good. It's a line that has a point on each end. So it does not go on forever in both directions. It has a starting point and an ending point. And how do we name a line segment? 2 points or 2 letters again. Good. So I could call this line segment CD. All right. And array, what's array? Yes, excellent. It has 1 point on one end, and the other end has an arrow. So it goes on forever in one direction, but it has a definite starting point. And how do you name array?
Array is not your read, right?
Nope, array is just a line that has a point on one end and an arrow on the other. So we're going to name it with 2 letters also. But notice the symbol that I'm putting on top of each of these when I write it. I put the symbol that matches it. For line, I put a line with 2 arrows. For line segment, I just put a little piece of a line. And for ray, I put the line with the arrow on one end. And I use my 2 letters again to name that. And then a plane is what? A plane is like a rectangle or a sheet of paper. Okay? It is 2-dimensional. That means it's flat like a sheet of paper. When you turn it to the side, it's just very flat. And something special about planes is that they go on forever in all directions. So essentially, they just keep going even though we only see that small rectangle part of it. And a plane is named by how many letters?
3.
3. Good. Good job. That's a hard one. So you would call it plane A, B, D. And it would have to be named by 3 non-collinear points. So that means the points are not all on the same line. You might have another letter here. You don't want to call it plane ACB because that would not be correct. It has to be 3 non-collinear points. All right, so section 5.2 is all about different kinds of angles. So an angle, remember, is just 2 rays that are joined together by a common vertex. And that vertex is going to be that point where the 2 rays meet. So let's label that little vertex. And how do we name an angle? Anybody remember? 3 letters or 3 points. And we're always going to put which point in the middle of those 3 letters? Yes. So we're going to call this angle A, B, C. The vertex is always going to be in the middle. And complementary angles do what? Okay, so complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees, and supplementary are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. Adjacent angles mean they are next to each other. They share a common ray, always. Okay, so if they're adjacent, they share a side together or a ray. So when you guys were working on IXL, this is where I showed you. Okay, so remember, we're keeping that vertex in the middle when we name them, but when you have two angles that are adjacent, you're going to see the same letters, EF and FE, because they share that common ray. And vertical angles are what? Okay, vertical angles are caused by intersecting lines, and vertical angles are across from each other. So these two angles are vertical because they're right across from each other. They share the same vertex. They're vertical angles. Also, these two angles would be vertical because they're across from each other. So congruent or congruent angles means that they are equal to each other. So they're the same size. And perpendicular lines are what?
Different size.
They are, but what is special about perpendicular lines?
They never touch.
That's parallel lines.
Make a cross.
They do make a cross. And what kind of an angle do they meet at?
90.
90. Good. And if one of those angles is 90, all four of them are 90. Okay? So that can be very helpful when you're answering questions about perpendicular lines. Remember that they meet at 90 degrees. That's the important part. And here's some examples of how to find a missing angle when you're given some information. So what do we know about this first angle right here?
It's equal to 90.
It is equal to 90. Good job.
So 53 minus 90.
Yes, so if I do 90 minus 53, what is it, Ethan? 37 degrees. So that's super simple. X equals 37 degrees. All you have to do is subtract whatever's there from 90. All right, how much is this other angle worth?
180.
180. So what do I have to do to find this one?
56 minus 180.
180 minus 56. 124. It's so convenient to have Ethan in class because he can compute like that.
I was helping.
I know, you were. But Ethan's the compute guy. Computation master. Okay, so on this one, what kind of angles are we dealing with here? Okay, yeah. So in one case, I have supplementary angles because I have these two angles that add up to equal 180 degrees. That's right. Also, another way to look at it is that I have vertical angles. Okay, because 39 is going to be equal to this one because they are vertical. They're opposite each other. So what does y equal?
39.
39. And then how do I find what x equals? Okay, so 180 minus 39, 141. Nice. So x is going to equal 141 degrees. Okay, so use what you know to make your life a little easier. Vertical angles are the same size. Okay, so what do I know about this angle?
It's 90 degrees.
It's 90 degrees. Okay, so 90 minus 42 is going to help, which is 48. And then that means that this whole section is 48 degrees. So how do I find out what x is? If they tell me, hold on, I forgot something. If they tell me that these two angles are congruent, remember that little, yeah, that little line means that they're congruent. So we'll do 48 divided by 2, which is going to equal 24. So each angle here is 24. All right, and that's going to be it for this section today. We'll do sections 5.3 and 5.4 tomorrow. And on your homework today for IXL, I just have you going back to anything in Chapter 5. So for the past 3 weeks, anything that we have done in IXL, do a few in each section. That will help you review. Okay, let me know if you have any questions.